It's 1985. I stand tall above the Alaskan wilderness, perched atop a remote fire tower. The chill of the summer breeze sends a shiver down my spine as I survey the land below. I relish the solitude, the untouched beauty of the landscape. My tower is a simple structure, wood and glass, with a radio for emergency communication. It's just large enough to hold a small cot, a desk with an old typewriter, a two-burner stove, and a single chair. Nearly all the walls are windows, offering panoramic views of the incredible Alaskan wilderness. The first few weeks are peaceful, almost meditative. I spend my days watching, waiting for the hint of smoke that would signal a forest fire. I observe the subtle changes in the landscape. The sun's journey across the cloudless sky, the sway of trees dancing in the breeze, and the daily routines of wildlife, unaware of my quiet observation. Evenings are consumed with writing reports and reading the novels I brought for company. One late summer night, hunched over my desk working on a report, something feels different. A sense of unease creeps up on me, subtle yet undeniable. A strange sensation of being watched. I stand, stretching my aching muscles, and move to the window. The moon hangs low tonight, so low it feels almost within reach. Its usual silver hue is replaced by a deep, intense red, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. The forest is bathed in this strange, alien light, painted a startlingly vibrant shade of crimson. I've never seen anything like it. The world outside my tower feels transformed into a different realm altogether. It's hauntingly beautiful, yet deeply unsettling. "Elias," a voice crackles over the radio. "This is Elias, go ahead." "How's the night out there?" It's Bethany, my boss at the main office in Anchorage, one of the few people I interact with. I glance again at the ominously low-hanging moon. "Different," I reply. I can almost hear her raise an eyebrow when she asks, "Different how?" "Well, Bethany," I ask, my gaze still fixed on the strange sight. "Have you ever seen the moon sit so low?" There's a pause. "Can't say that I have, Elias." "Don't let it spook you," she advises, a lightness in her tone suggesting she doesn't fully grasp the eerie ambiance the crimson moonlight casts. "Spooked? Nah," I say, trying to match her lightness. But something inside me stirs, a primal instinct warning me that something isn't right. "Good to hear," Bethany says, but I'm no longer listening. My eyes have caught a flicker of movement at the edge of the forest, a pair of eyes reflecting the moon's crimson light, glowing red against the dark undergrowth. They're fixated on the tower, fixated on me. "Bethany, I'll call you back," I mutter into the radio, my eyes never leaving those two glowing dots. I step back, my heart pounding. I've seen animals' eyes reflecting the light of my flashlight before. But this is different. These aren't the curious, skittish eyes of a forest creature. They're intent, focused, almost predatory. With a shaky breath, I step away from the window, moving out of sight. My skin tingles with a sudden adrenaline rush, a primal sense of fear and fascination wrestling within me. The night passes without further incident, but sleep doesn't come easily. The image of those glowing red eyes is burned into my mind. With the first light of dawn, I make a strong cup of coffee and survey the forest. It seems to have returned to normal. I shake off the lingering unease and decide to stick to my routine, chopping wood for the stove. Selecting my axe, I head down the tower. The cool morning air is crisp, tingling against my skin. I walk towards a small tree at the edge of the clearing. A few quick swings, and the tree starts to lean. Dark red liquid seeps from the cut. I pause, staring at the unusual sight. It's sap, I realize, but unlike any sap I've ever seen. It's deep red, almost the color of blood. The viscous liquid dribbles down the trunk, staining the grass at the base. I reach out, dipping a finger into the red sap. It's sticky, thick, and definitely not the usual clear amber sap. It has a strange metallic smell, oddly reminiscent of pennies. It's warm and smooth. I take a step back, a feeling of surrealism washing over me. First, the low-hanging crimson moon and the glowing red eyes. Now, a bleeding tree. I leave the tree as it is and return to the tower, empty-handed, my mind swirling with thoughts. As evening rolls around, the strange incidents of the day weigh heavily on my mind. The image of the tree bleeding sap as dark as blood lingers. I find myself restless, pacing the small space of the lookout tower, glancing out into the dimming wilderness with apprehension. The sun dips below the horizon. Twilight is quickly swallowed by deep darkness. Tonight, the forest feels more alive than ever. The nocturnal creatures beginning their nightly sounds. The rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. I feel a sense of anticipation, as if the forest is holding its breath. Then the moon rises again, hanging heavy and low in the night sky, casting a crimson glow that transforms the forest into an ethereal landscape. It feels like a spotlight directed at me, at the tower, a beacon in the vast expanse of wilderness. And then there they are again, the glowing red eyes appearing at the edge of the forest. They're closer tonight, and the red glow is more intense, as if seeking my gaze. The eyes swivel toward the tower, toward me. A knot tightens in my stomach as a chill creeps down my spine. They're not just watching me anymore. They're moving, slowly and methodically, making their way toward the tower. My heart pounds in my chest as I quickly lock the tower door. I keep my eyes trained on the approaching figure, the ominous glow growing stronger and closer. A primal fear swells within me, an instinct screaming at me to hide, to run. But there's nowhere to go. The entity stops a few yards away from the tower, still just a pair of glowing red eyes in the dark. It seems to be studying me, its gaze never leaving the tower. It stays there for what feels like an eternity. Finally, as the first light of dawn starts to bleed into the sky, the eyes disappear, melting away into the receding darkness. With their departure, the forest seems to exhale, the tension melting away, leaving behind an unsettling silence. I'm left standing at the window, the taste of fear still sharp in my mouth, staring out at the now empty spot where the entity had stood. Questions whirl around in my head, like leaves caught in a storm. The following day greets me with a sky as clear as crystal, and a chill in the air that seems to hold the remnants of last night's terror. Despite the fear gnawing at my mind, I decide to stick to my routine, checking on the tree I tried to chop down yesterday. With a determined stride, I venture out towards the tree line, axe in hand. As I approach the tree, I see that the dark red sap is still trickling from the cuts in its trunk, staining the ground beneath it. I can't help but touch it, half expecting it to have turned back into regular sap. But it's still there. A rustle in the underbrush catches my attention. I turn, expecting to see a squirrel or a bird, but instead, I find myself looking into the eyes of a deer. Eyes that should be a gentle brown, but are instead glowing bright red, much like the mysterious entity from the night before. I freeze, the sight of the deer stopping me in my tracks. It's not alone. A rabbit peeks out from the underbrush, its eyes glowing the same bright red. A bird flutters down from a nearby tree, landing on a branch overhead. its eyes a pair of red beacons staring down at me. The forest is quiet, save for the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I take a step back, my hand dropping the axe. The animals don't move, don't run away as they usually do. They just watch me, their red eyes unwavering. Feeling a mix of fear and fascination, I slowly back away from the tree, from the animals, and return to the tower. The forest, once a place of peace and solitude, has become something alien, something unknown. As I climb back up to the tower, the unease from the night before returns, stronger than ever. Back inside the safety of the tower, my hands shake slightly as I reach for the radio. I dial the frequency to reach Bethany. "Bethany, you there?" I ask, my voice sounding oddly shaky in the quiet tower. There's a brief pause before I hear Bethany's gruff voice come over the static. "Yeah, Elias, I'm here." "What's up?" I begin, taking a deep breath to steady my voice. "I need you to listen, okay? I need you to really listen to what I'm about to say." There's a pause, then Bethany's voice, sounding slightly bemused. "Okay, Elias, you've got my attention. What's going on?" I grip the radio tighter, as if the physical contact could somehow lend me the strength to articulate the surreal experiences I've been having. "It started with the moon," I start, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's been hanging low, lower than I've ever seen it before, and it's not its usual color. It's crimson, Bethany, like blood." Silence from the other end. For a moment, I fear I've lost connection. Then Bethany's voice crackles back to life. "A red moon, huh? Could be an atmospheric thing." I cut her off before she can finish, urgency seeping into my voice. "That's not all, Bethany. The trees, they're bleeding. I tried to cut one down, and it oozed dark red sap. And the animals, their eyes are red." Again, silence greets me. I can practically hear the gears turning in Bethany's head, trying to make sense of what I'm telling her. "And then there's something out there, Bethany," I add, my voice dropping to a whisper. "It comes at night, glowing red eyes in the dark. It's been watching me every night." Bethany's voice comes back, disbelief evident in her tone. "Elias, are you sure you're okay out there? You've been alone for weeks. It plays tricks on your mind, you know." "I'm not crazy, Bethany," I retort, a flicker of annoyance cutting through my fear. "Something's happening here. The forest, it's changing." Bethany chuckles, a deep, warm sound that would usually put me at ease, but not today. "Elias, you've been out there alone for a while now. It's normal to see things differently." "I'm not imagining things," I insist. But there's a tremor in my voice that betrays my uncertainty. Bethany is silent for a moment before she replies, softer now. "Look, Elias, why don't you take the rest of the day off? Get some rest. Remember, it's just a forest, nothing more." With that, she signs off, leaving me alone once more in the tower. I sit there, staring at the radio, her words echoing in my head as the crimson moon ascends again, casting an ominous glow over the landscape. I find myself unable to sleep. I can't shake off the disturbing encounters of the day, the disbelieving tone in Bethany's voice when I try to explain. A mounting dread fills me as I remember the entity. It's coming back tonight. I'm sure of it. And just as the thought crosses my mind, I spot the familiar red glow at the edge of the forest. There they are, the pair of red eyes, glowing brighter against the blood-red backdrop of the moon. But tonight, they're not alone. There's something accompanying the eyes, a form slowly materializing from the shadows. It's tall, standing at least 7 feet tall. It's humanoid. But something is wrong with its proportions. Its arms are too long, its body too thin. Its head turns upwards towards the tower, and I instinctively step back. But I can't look away. I see its face, or rather, the absence of one. There are no discernible features save for the glowing red eyes. It's like looking into a void. From the relative safety of the tower, I watch the entity start to move. Its movements are unnervingly smooth and silent. It doesn't walk. Rather, it seems to glide, covering the ground between the forest and the tower with an unnatural ease. For a brief moment, it stops right underneath the tower, its gaze fixed upward, piercing through the wooden floor and through me. It's as though it can see right into my soul. It stays there for a while, watching and waiting. Then, as abruptly as it arrived, the entity retreats, its form dissolving into the darkness as it recedes back into the forest. The glowing eyes are the last to disappear, a haunting reminder of its presence that lingers in the dark. Left alone once more, I collapse onto my cot, the image of the faceless entity seared into my mind. As the sun dips below the horizon, I watch the vibrant blues and greens of the day surrender to the crimson hues of the night. My heart races, not with anticipation, but with fear. I know what's coming, and for the first time since I started this job, I dread the night. I've made up my mind, though. I can't live in fear, hiding in this tower every night. I need answers. I need to face whatever it is that's lurking in the shadows. Inside the tower, I prepare myself. I pick up my flashlight, switch it on, testing the bright beam against the floor. Then I grab the flare gun, an old model, standard issue emergency kit for the watchtower, never meant to be used against whatever that thing is. But it's the only weapon I have. I check the flare gun, ensuring it's loaded. I have a single shot. I don't even know what I'm hoping to achieve. As darkness finally engulfs the landscape, I watch the forest. I wait, my eyes scanning the edge of the forest for the familiar red glow. And sure enough, it appears. The pair of red eyes glowing bright against the darkness, accompanied by the tall, ominous silhouette. But tonight, I'm not going to hide. I tighten my grip on the flashlight and the flare gun, take a deep breath, and step out onto the tower's balcony. There it is looking up at me. It's watching and waiting. I can't help but shiver, not from the cold, but from the fear that snakes its way up my spine. My heart thunders in my chest as I take one last look at the safety of the tower. Then, mustering every bit of courage I have left, I descend the steps of the tower. Each step brings me closer to the entity. I can feel its gaze on me, an unsettling focus that seems to pierce through the darkness. It's watching me approach, making no move to retreat, to approach, or to react in any way. I'm a few yards away now, with the tower behind me and the entity before me. This is it. With a determined stride, I step onto the crimson-tinged ground. The entity is now only a few paces away. I can see it clearly now. Its faceless form, its elongated arms, and those haunting red eyes. Then, holding my breath, I raise my flashlight to shine a beam of light directly at it. The beam slices through the darkness, illuminating the entity. It doesn't react, remaining eerily still even as the light washes over it. Up close, it's even more unnerving. Its form seems to shift and ripple like an illusion, wavering on the edge of reality. Ignoring the chill of fear crawling up my spine, I raise my free hand, the one holding the flare gun. I can see it, the towering figure shrouded in darkness, its crimson eyes locked on me. The flashlight trembles in my hand, my own fear betraying me. "Can you understand me?" I call out, my voice echoing through the silent forest. The entity doesn't respond, but it doesn't retreat either. "I don't want to hurt you," I continue, swallowing down the lump in my throat. "I just want to understand. What are you? Why are you here?" Still, there's no response, just the unblinking crimson eyes staring back at me. The silence stretches on, becoming a palpable presence between us. It's like standing at the precipice of a chasm, waiting for the fall. I clench the flare gun tighter in my hand. My fingers are trembling, but I try to steady my grip. I take one last breath, feeling the cold Alaskan air filling my lungs. There's a moment of hesitation, a split second where I question if I'm doing the right thing. But then the entity shifts its form, rippling in the harsh light of the flashlight. It feels like a silent provocation, a dare, or perhaps a threat. It's enough to shatter my doubt. With a newfound resolve, I pull the trigger of the flare gun. The gun kicks back, a roar breaking the silence as the flare soars through the air. It arcs a bright streak of red before it descends, heading straight for the entity. The light from the flare illuminates the surrounding area. The forest watches in silent anticipation as the flare nears its target. And then, with a burst of blinding light and heat, the flare hits the entity. The surrounding night is lit up momentarily, turning the forest into a surreal spectacle of reds and blacks. As the light dims, I squint through the dissipating smoke, my heart hammering in my chest. I hold my breath, waiting to see the aftermath of my action. The air is filled with the scent of the spent flare. The entity stands there, unaffected. The flare seems to have done nothing more than create a temporary light show. But there's something different now. The entity is no longer still. It stirs, a slow, deliberate movement that sends a shiver down my spine. Suddenly, the entity's glowing eyes seem to burn brighter, a piercing red gaze that locks onto me. In the silence of the aftermath, I realize that the entity hasn't retreated. Instead, it's begun to move towards me. As I stand there with the spent flare gun in my hand, feeling suddenly useless, I can't help but wonder if I've just made a grave mistake. As the entity begins to move, gliding towards me with a smooth, silent motion, I feel a cold shiver of terror run down my spine. Every instinct screams at me to turn around, to run back to the relative safety of the tower. But something keeps me rooted to the spot, the flashlight and empty flare gun still clutched tightly in my hands. Its movements are slow, almost methodical. Each inch it covers seems to drag the moment out, stretching the seconds into what feels like an eternity. The only sound breaking the silence is the ragged sound of my own breathing. As it draws nearer, I can't pull my gaze away from those hauntingly bright red eyes. It's close now, so close I can almost touch it. And yet, it doesn't attack. It doesn't lunge at me as I feared it might. It just stops, hovering a few feet away, with its luminous gaze locked on mine. Then, in a moment that makes my heart skip a beat, it shifts again, the dark form flickering under the dim light of the moon. It's a disturbing sight, watching the entity change its shape, becoming even more indistinguishable. It's as if it's trying to communicate in a language I don't understand. A chill runs down my spine as I stand there, waiting for it to make the next move. But it doesn't. It just watches me, a silent observer in the crimson night. After what feels like hours, the entity begins to retreat, its form slowly dissolving into the darkness until only the red eyes remain. And then, they fade away, disappearing into the night, leaving me alone in the crimson-lit forest. As I stand there, the adrenaline slowly dwindling away, I realize I'm shaking. With a deep, shuddering breath, I lower the flashlight. The encounter leaves me with more questions than answers. What is the entity? Why is it here? Why didn't it harm me? With dawn still hours away, I turn back towards the tower. My legs feel like jelly, and it takes all my strength to climb the stairs back to the watchroom. Once inside, I collapse onto the cot, my body drained of energy. But sleep doesn't come. I keep replaying the encounter in my mind, those glowing red eyes seared into my memory. Exhausted, I lay on my cot, my mind buzzing with the recent encounter. The whole thing still feels surreal, like something out of a nightmare. For a moment, I consider calling Bethany again, filling her in on the recent turn of events, but I stop myself, knowing it would be useless. Bethany didn't believe me the first time. Why would she now? Besides, I can't quite find the words to describe what just happened. Hours pass, and the adrenaline slowly wears off, replaced by fatigue, but sleep remains elusive. Every sound from the forest below causes me to jump. The usual nighttime sounds of the wilderness now seem menacing. As the night deepens, I decide to step back out onto the balcony. A breeze rustles the treetops below, the sound eerily soothing. I gaze out into the forest, the flashlight in my hand casting a narrow beam into the depths of the darkness. I see nothing unusual. The glowing red eyes are nowhere to be seen, the entity itself absent. Is it truly gone? Or is it just lurking in the shadows, watching from a distance? Suddenly, the tranquil silence of the night is shattered by a distant howl. I tense my grip, tightening around the flashlight. I shine the light toward the source of the noise, but it's just a wolf, its eyes glowing in the beam of my flashlight. But they're not red. They're the usual natural color. Is the forest returning to normal? Or is it just the calm before another storm? As the first rays of dawn start to seep into the forest, bathing it in soft light, I breathe a sigh of relief. I made it through the night, and the forest, for now, seems calm. The animal's eyes are no longer glowing red and move with a natural ease. There's a sense of normalcy, and I hold on to it, seeking comfort in the familiar sights and sounds. Despite what happened, I have a job to do. With the coming daylight, my fear subsides enough to let me focus on my work. I spend the day in my tower, scanning the forest below with binoculars, checking for smoke or any signs of fire. But as the day progresses, I can't help but remember the bleeding trees. I decide to venture back into the forest, driven by a mix of fear and curiosity. The axe in my hand feels heavy as I approach a small tree. My palms sweat as I remember the dark red sap from the day before. I make a small cut, bracing myself for what might come, but instead of the eerie red sap, the tree bleeds the usual clear liquid. Relief floods me. It's as if the forest has returned to its normal state. The animals behave naturally. The trees bleed clear sap, and the entity is nowhere to be seen. Yet, as the sun begins to set, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, I can't help but feel a sense of unease. The entity could return. I know the quiet day might just be a break, a deceptive pause. As darkness blankets the forest, I watch with bated breath, bracing for the same crimson hue, the same menacing glow. But tonight, the moon looks normal. It hangs high in the sky, bathing the forest in its soft, natural light. The trees sway gently in the breeze, their forms casting long, ordinary shadows on the ground. The forest is beautiful, calm and almost serene. Hours pass with no sign of the entity. No glowing red eyes piercing the darkness, no ominous form hovering at the edge of the forest. I keep scanning the landscape below, half expecting it to materialize out of nowhere. But the night remains uneventful. A sense of relief washes over me. Maybe it's over. Maybe the entity has moved on, or maybe it was never really there. Could it have been a figment of my imagination, a trick of the light? The thought is comforting, but deep down, I know what I saw was real. Despite the tranquility, I can't shake off the lingering fear. The entity's absence doesn't mean it's gone. It might return tonight, tomorrow, or any other night. The uncertainty keeps me on edge. But for now, all I can do is appreciate the peace. For the first time since starting this job, I truly take in the beauty of the wilderness around me. The tranquil night, the rustling leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, all wrapped in the soft, silver glow of the moon. The night passes without incident. No red sap, no glowing eyes, and no mysterious entity. Just a normal night in a remote fire watchtower in Alaska. The summer goes by quickly after that night. As days turn into weeks, the forest remains calm. Its eerie crimson nights are a thing of the past. The animals go about their lives. Their eyes are back to their natural colors. The trees bleed clear sap, just as they should. And the entity, it never returns. As I go about my daily routine, the memory of the entity and the strange happenings start to fade. They become distant, like fragments of a dream, growing dimmer with each passing day. Yet they never truly disappear. They linger at the back of my mind, an unsettling reminder of the nights I experienced. I finish my job as the summer draws to a close, packing my belongings. I take one last look at the fire tower that has been my home for the past few months. It's a strange feeling, leaving this place. As I drive away, I take one last look at the forest. It's just a forest now, no different than any other, yet I know better. I've seen what it can be, and what it had been.